Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, in this video, if you're in the market for buying an Epiphone Les Paul, I want to talk about which one may be right for you and go over the pros and cons of 3 different models, okay? With that all being said, let's get into it. So what is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. My name is Ray. I'm a guitar player here on YouTube, and I'm a huge Les Paul fan. I've been very fortunate enough to be able to play close to a dozen of Les Pauls from Gibson and Epiphone and maybe a few Chipsons here and there. But anyway, the Les Paul is just very dare I say, sacred to me. I'm a huge fan, and very recently, this year in 2021, I've been doing a lot of Epiphone Les Paul content. Anyway, I feel like I have the means and the ability to create this video to talk about the 3 different models that I have here on the channel, which I will explain and show very, very soon. But yeah, man, I figured I'd just create a little just kind of conversation piece about, if you're in the market for Epiphone Les Paul, which one you would want to buy and why, based on all the things that I have to say in my experience, you know what I mean? So let's dive on in. If you're brand new to the channel, subscribe, all right? We're about to hit 40,000. We might have already by the time this is uploaded, so thanks so much. I appreciate you. So now, the first Les Paul that I have right here is an Epiphone Les Paul Custom, and this is from the Inspired by Gibson line. Now, this is my kind of middle of the road in terms of popularity, or my second favorite of the 3 I'm going to show you. This is more for the traditionalists, I think, in the sense that this one kind of feels the most like a Gibson Les Paul Custom or a Gibson Les Paul in general. It has, that thickness of a body, no weight relief. It has kind of a slimmer 60s neck profile, pro buckers, no push-pull pots, nothing like that. Just kind of like the standard layout of a Les Paul, you know what I mean? Now, where this one is kind of lacking, in my own honest opinion, is just the overall sound. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of Gibson Les Paul stock pickups to begin with. I'm a hard rock / metal player, depending on the day, but mostly play metal, all the time I play metal. Anyway, just the stock Gibson pickups for me just don't really do it in terms of ferocity and intensity. So the pro buckers are just not really kind of my thing, and I think the general consensus, the majority of the time, most people who buy Epiphone Les Pauls or Epiphones in general, they swap out the pickups. So the pro buckers are kind of a negative for me, but apart from that, the feel, the weight, the aesthetic, Silver Burst Les Paul Custom, it's pretty sick, right? Apart from that, man, I really, really do thoroughly love this guitar. Like I said, it's just the sound is the only thing that's really lacking with the Inspired by Gibson Les Paul Custom. The second model we have right now is the Epiphone Les Paul Modern. Now, this is my least favorite of the 3 that I'm going to show in this video. The Les Paul Modern idea and the Les Paul Modern model just really isn't something that I want with a Les Paul. The main thing that I want with a Les Paul is kind of like what I just showed you on the Silver Ball Les Paul Custom, and that is the traditionalist side of things. The traditionalist in me really gravitate towards that. There's something really magical and nostalgic and just kind of just pure about the feel and the vibe of an old school Les Paul style, even if it's a new guitar. You know what I mean? Just a Les Paul has a feel and a sound and a vibe to it. The Les Paul Modern, for me personally, just doesn't do it for me. But now, let's say on the contrary, you're a more modern player and you want modern aesthetics and modern, just a modern feel, modern vibe with a Les Paul, right? Well, guess what? The Epiphone Les Paul Modern has you covered. For starters, you got 3 push-pull pots for different tonal options to split the pickups and, a whole bunch of different, tones you can get out of this thing. But you also have a modern heel joint as well as locking tuners and weight relief. Now, again, I'm personally not a fan of weight relief with a Les Paul, but I know a lot of people are. So again, if that's something that you're gravitating towards, this guitar is certainly, you know, your jam, you know what I mean? But one thing I will say I love about this guitar is it has an ebony board. That's huge. I really like ebony boards more than rosewood, I think. And it's just, yeah, not only does it look cool, but it's just something that I'm used to and or, you know, just like. I don't know if it's a sound thing or an aesthetic thing or both. I just like ebonies on, you know, all my fretboards, ebony fretboards. So anyway, although this is not necessarily my most favorite model, I certainly can appreciate it and I can understand why players would want to play one. You know what I mean? But my most favorite out of the three models, by a hair, is the Epiphone Les Paul Prophecy. This thing is awesome and I use it all the time. So, why is it my favorite? Well, starters, let's just get the negatives out of the way, okay? First thing that I don't like about it, and dare say the only thing I don't like about it, is it has modern weight relief. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's just something about the feel, man. It's just, I wish there was more to this guitar, you know what I mean? A Les Paul, in my opinion, is supposed to be heavy sounding, or heavy feeling. You know, I don't know if that's in my head or what, but it's just, I'm being honest, you know what I mean? I just wish it was heavy. But apart from that, man, that's the only really thing that I just don't like about this model. Now, one aspect of this guitar is a mixed element, and that is, see how big, I don't know how well you guys can see this, you know, I'll do my best to explain, but there's a huge gap between the end of the body to where the stop tailpiece is. And at first I thought it was just a visual thing, but when you play this guitar, your hand actually sits further up on the guitar. 1 second. There, look at the difference there between the two guitars. See how much further up that stop tailpiece is on the Prophecy compared to the Inspired by Gibson? That is really weird to me, and it's a weird aesthetic. Not a bad thing, but just something that's very, very different in comparison to this guitar, you know? But apart from that, ladies and gentlemen, apart from the way the bridge sits up forward, and apart from the weight relief, I really love this guitar, man. There's so many things I love about it, and I'm going to do my very best to explain all those right now. First up, the aesthetic. This looks like a vintage silver burst teardrop Les Paul with a maple veneer. Like, it's like the best of both worlds. I love flame tops and I love old school silver burst guitars. And you know, I know this is like olive tiger or whatever this is called, olive green, whatever. I just love the way this thing looks, man. It looks vintage, but it certainly is anything but vintage. It has a ton of modern appointments, you know? Another thing I love about it, the block inlays. Look at these inlays, dude. Look at these. These things are beautiful, man. I love block inlays on all my guitars, and this guitar is absolutely gorgeous. To go with the block inlays, 24 jumbo frets. 24 fret Les Paul is wild, but the fact that these come with jumbo frets is huge. I'm a metal player, and I just love metal guitar, you know, metal guitars that have big frets, jumbo frets, to where you can really grab onto them and really make the guitar scream. This guitar plays insanely well, and it plays the best out of all three, in my opinion. And I think the frets really help out with that. You can grab onto the note that much easier, you know what I mean? Another reason why I love this guitar, I'll say it again, ebony board. I love ebony boards, and a Les Paul with an ebony board just looks cooler, man. Just looks classier, meaner, sleeker, whatever you want to call it. I just really, really love it that much more. And then one final thing I love about this guitar is locking Grover tuners. Helps out with stability, helps out with changing strings, all the above. You guys know why locking tuners are ideal. I love this guitar, man. There's not one thing I would change about it, other than maybe like stainless steel frets down the road if I ever need to refret this thing. But yeah, and like for the price and for what I love in a guitar, and for not even necessarily a Les Paul, just a metal guitar, this guitar has everything, and it's just an absolute joy to play and a dream to play. And it's why it's my favorite of the three Epiphone Les Pauls that I've showed in this video. So, ladies and gentlemen, out of the 3 models I showed you, the Modern, which I'm out of hands, I only have 2 hands, obviously, but the Inspired by Gibson, the Modern, and the Prophecy. Which one do you guys like? They all have pros and cons of each. They all are great guitars, and I play all of them for different reasons. But I gotta be honest, these are my 2 favorites, and yeah, dude, I just love these guitars, man. So anyway, what are your guys' thoughts on all things Epiphone Les Pauls? Leave all your thoughts down below. Let's have a nice conversation down below, okay? I'll meet you down there. We'll mix it up, and we'll talk all things Epiphone Les Pauls, okay? If you're brand new to my channel, again, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. I'm out of here. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay metal. I'll see you guys next time. Later.